I think we can deal with her bail matter, but let's now go to the fact that she has been convicted, she has been sentenced, she's not in Ghana. What does that mean? Is there any issue? On our Law 101, the Law 101, normally what we do to start the show, we call it the Law 101, Section 315, subsection 2 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act, 1960, Act 30, says a sentence of imprisonment shall commence on and include the whole of the day on which it is pronounced. This would mean that on the 16th of April, when the judge convicted her and sentenced her, despite her being absent, the sentence begins to run from that day. Is that correct?
Thank you very much, Samson. Before I answer, let me say that criminal law is a creature of statute. A criminal offense is a creature of statute. A criminal sentence or criminal punishment is a creature of statute. What it means is that in criminal law, nothing can be a crime unless that crime has been defined in a statute and the punishment is prescribed in that statute. The same way, a criminal punishment can never be imposed or meted out to anybody unless a statute makes provision for that. Now, the law that you just read is very clear. It says that a sentence of imprisonment, we must be careful here because there are many kinds of punishment in our criminal law. We have fines, we have probation, we have supervision, by the police and all that. Then we have imprisonment. Mm-hmm. The law that you just read relates only to imprisonment. It says that a sentence of imprisonment shall commence. In fact, let me say something that this is the law that regulates the effect of a sentence of imprisonment. It says that it takes effect or it commences on the day it is imposed. That day is included. If you want to calculate when it takes effect. So the meaning is that when the court imposes a sentence of imprisonment and it is 10 years, the 10 years begin to run on the day the court, not on the day the person enters the prison. The day the court pronounces it. I must also make it clear that in Ghana, it is the court that imposes criminal punishment, not the prison authorities. And so when the court has imposed a certain term of imprisonment, we should calculate it from the day the court imposed it, and not when the prison officers admitted the person into prison custody.
So the state says it is going to commence extradition proceedings. Well, first of all, it means the state must locate her where she is before the state can commence extradition proceedings and ask whichever country she is found to extradite her back to Ghana. Is it not the case, rather, does it not make practical sense that if she is found and Ghana goes to that particular country, say in the US, and says, bring her to Ghana, and she is brought to Ghana, the sentence should begin to run from the day she enters the prison room? Shouldn't that be the case?
This issue is subject to multiple interpretations and views. But as far as criminal law and the administration of criminal justice is concerned, every view that one expresses must have a statutory backing or footing. The criminal law does not admit of any guesswork or personal opinion. Now, let me take you to Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
When you read their Criminal Administration Act, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of Nigeria, it makes clear provisions on trial in absentia, and it says that when the court is minded to try the person in absentia, the court can convict the person, but can only impose a sentence when the offender has been arrested or the offender has submitted himself to the court. So the proper thing and the proper practice elsewhere is that when a person is being tried in absentia, the court can only convict the person, but should not sentence him or her. Because under section 315 that you read, when you convict the person and sentence him or her, by law, the sentence begins to run. Let me say that the running or the starting of the sentence is by operation of law and not by administrative convenience. So that when the person has not been brought to Ghana, the sentence is automatically held in abeyance. That is not a correct view. There is something in criminal law we call suspended sentences. Mm-hmm. When we say suspended sentences, that is where the court imposes a sentence and suspends the operation or the enforcement of the sentence until a future date. That law is not in Ghana. It's not part of our law. Under Ghanaian law, a sentence can be suspended only when it is passed on a pregnant female. When the female is pregnant and the court has evidence that she is pregnant and the court sentences her, the law is that the judge must suspend the operation of the sentence of imprisonment on that pregnant woman. What is the effect of this? It means that until a sentence of imprisonment is suspended by an order of a court, it keeps running and it will run until it elapses, even in the absence of the accused person or of the offender. Are you
suggesting by this that if Sedina Christine Tamaklo Atienu is not found and extradited to Ghana until maybe after 10 years, the sentence would have elapsed and there will not be a sentence for her to serve? Or that if she is found 6 years after the sentence was passed, she will serve only 4 years? Is that what you're saying?
Samson, that is what Act 30 says. That is what Act 30 says. It says that the sentence commences on the day it was passed, not on the day the convict enters the 4 walls or 4 corners of the prison yard. And so this discussion must bring us to the realization of a weakness, a fundamental lacuna in our criminal law, which is that our courts must be permitted or empowered to suspend their sentences in situations like this so that the offender cannot escape justice. Anybody who suggests to me that the sentence of 10 years will be held in abeyance until she's arrested must provide a legal authority to back that argument. Mm. My authority for saying that the sentence has started running is the provision you read on your screen. And it is clear, very clear.
Can we know that the law is developed by case law? Can you point us to some case law that confirm this position? Don't we know, for example, that sentences, when they are passed, a person may have been in custody, and the sentence will be computed in recognition of the time the person has already spent in prison, in custody.
Yes, that is also a constitutional requirement that every pre-sentence, custody must be computed to be part of the punishment to be imposed on the person. But here is the case. This woman, Sedinam, was not in court and she was sentenced in her absence. Now, in the face of this clear provision of the law, 315, which says that her sentence, in fact, her sentence commences on the day it was imposed. Why would you think that it will rather commence on the day she arrives in Ghana? And what is your provision? What is your the law on that position? You see, that is why I said that this discussion must tell parliamentarians that our law is archaic, is outdated, has been overrun by event, and requires immediate reforms. So that when judges are empowered to suspend sentences, that sentence would have been suspended awaiting her arrival from wherever she is or her submission to the authorities. And you asked of authorities to as it were,
confirm,
buttress, to confirm my argument that no court in Ghana has the power to impose a sentence today and make an order that that sentence should take effect from yesterday or tomorrow. Now, those who are listening to me may read the case of Kwame Ewuya versus the Republic, 2018, 127, Ghana Monthly Journal, at page 240. Kwame Ewuya versus the Republic, 2018, 127, GMJ 240. There is also the case of Charles Ansah versus the Republic, 2017, 111, GMJ at page 193. These are Court of Appeal cases in which the court expressly stated that no judge in Ghana can pass a sentence and say that that sentence should take effect from either yesterday or any future date. What it means is that the sentence that was handed down or passed by the High Court on the former CEO of Maslock has already started running. And I have heard people argue that the law applies to only judges, it guides only judges in how they should pass the sentence and does not apply to the administration or enforcement of the sentence. That would be wrong because the prison authorities do not decide how the term of imprisonment runs. For them, they only receive the prisoner and they will ask. So when you look at their form, the prison authority, their form, they have the date of sentence and date of admission. Now, it cannot be correct to say that the sentence will run from the date of admission into prison unless there is a clear statutory provision to that effect. The sentence, according to section 315 of Act 30, starts running on the day it was imposed. Now, let me say this. The lawmakers probably did not envisage a situation of the kind that we have now, where a person tried in absentia, maybe sentenced in her absence, and so they didn't make any provision for that. But to me, by saying this, I am not claiming superior knowledge of the criminal law to anybody. I'm only trying to highlight that our laws, particularly on sentencing, requires immediate reforms. I mean, how can you think about a country like Ghana? We have been independent for about 60 years now. We don't have a sentencing act. We don't have any statute on sentencing of criminals, criminal punishment. This is a serious matter that Parliament must take up, because criminal punishment cannot be imposed in vacuum. There must be some footing.
Okay, Daniel, so you grab some water. Let's get our audiences to join us with their questions about this. I'm sure many people are not excited to hear that if she is found and brought to Ghana, her sentence will not commence from the date she enters the prison room, but it's already running. And if it does happen that she's found 10 years after, then it means the sentence has elapsed. There's no prison terms for her to, as it were, serve. And the judge, when she was passing the sentence, has said that I have also noted that the Republic has done nothing to the knowledge of this court. The Republic has done nothing to take advantage of international cooperation to bring her to justice, since she, as it were, absconded. This is when she was passing the sentence on the two of them. And he says the sentence against the accused persons. You can call us now and ask your questions, very brief, and Daniel Krang will answer your questions. You can call us now. As always, our phone lines are activated, and you see the phone number on your screen. He says the sentence against the accused persons also takes cognizance of the quantum of funds lost, the deliberation and enterprise with which the offenses were to her. So you can call us quickly and let's have your view or your comments or your questioning quickly. And as I said, I was trying to get former Deputy Attorney General Joseph Dindiok Penka. He was on Newsfile yesterday and was telling how bizarre the stories were, because he started this case when he was in government. And when she particularly gave that money to the microfinance company and they couldn't agree on the interest, and the microfinance company issued a check to cover the money to her. She says, I don't want a check, bring me cash. And they carried the cash and brought it to Bachuna fuel filling station, and she went and took that money. In Ghana must go back. Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Jima, calling from Tuna.
Hi, let's hear you.
Yeah, I'm Samson. I'm grateful for this program. I just want to make I want to appreciate what Lawyer Krang said. I think that without this in place, someone will take opportunity of the circumstance and run out of the country after feeling such huge amount and moving away. So I think that having a statute to back this is encouraging, and we shouldn't be thinking about other explanations or whatsoever for this particular thing. But it happens.
It has to start from the day she enters the prison.
No. It has to start from the ones we don't have. In as much as we wanted to face justice, we also have to rely on the law as specified.
Yeah. So it has to start from the day the sentence is pronounced. But that is what he talks about, the disadvantages and the lacuna in the law. So the day the person is arrested and then put into the prison room.
Yes, please. So until then, this is what we have. So Parliament has to take this up seriously. So
thank you very much. Let's go to Ima, is it? You're calling us from Kaswa. What's your questioning to Daniel Krang or contribution?
Yes, Mr. Sampson, thank you for giving me this audience. I am concerned about the permission given to her to go to or to go abroad for what? Treatment. Was it documented here by a doctor that truly she needed what? Further treatment abroad?
Definitely.
That's my first question.
Definitely.
And number two, was
that will always be required by the court. Okay. Thank you for your questions. well, Daniel Cran has made his view on that already. How about when she was on bail, there was a surety, Alex Mold, and she absconded. She's gone. What would typically happen, Daniel?
All right, thank you very much, Samson.
Yeah.
Under the law, the state has power to hold an accused person in custody awaiting his or her trial. Now, the essence of bail is for somebody to appear to the court and tell the court that I appreciate the power of the state to hold this person in custody, but now relinquish custody to me, give custody to me, so that anytime you need the person to come to court, ask me, I'll produce the person.
Just hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. Mousie, let's hear you quickly.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Sampson.
Mousie, go ahead.
Yes. Isn't the state responsible a letter to whichever state she is to be extradited to the country?
Isn't the state responsible for what?
Hello, can you hear me?
Isn't the state responsible for what?
To serve her a letter to be extradited back to the country.
First of all, we must find out where she is.
Okay, so does it mean you guys are raising an issue without knowing her whereabouts?
Of course, her whereabouts is not known. That's why she was not in the court, and the state has not brought her to court.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Yes, Daniel, so quickly on that one, our time is almost up.
So the sureties who came to court to sign the bail bond for her are liable to produce the offender, but they are liable only in property or in cash. You know, when somebody signs a bail bond and the person fails to come, you lose the property that you probably use as,
So previously, you, the surety, will also be arrested. But since Martin Kwebu went to the court to argue that this should not be the case, you will only be required to pay the bail sum, correct?
The bail sum. And now, because of the removal of the imprisonment, bail has become easy for those who have money. Let's look at it's a matter of paying off the bail sum and you are free. And so people should not think that this matter only is a legal matter, it's a political matter as well. Why? Because I do not understand why the offender was allowed to travel outside. For me personally, if you ask me, I will say I don't understand. She ought not to have been allowed.
All right.
Kolebu is there, and the big hospitals are there.
but there are clear situations where we know that people need treatment outside, and there are clear situations we know that. Don't we have those situations? All right.
Samson, I have practiced law for many years now. I have seen people who are bound in chains in hospitals and policemen standing by them. Why? Is it because they are not political figures? I mean, we should make sure that we give appearance of equality before the law.
All right,
so that nobody
Daniel
will think
Korang,
that some people are being
Daniel Korang, thank you very much. His partner, Adom Legal Consult, he's based in the Siani, and he has been very helpful to the law platform. Thank you so very much. And he's giving us all of this education. He has written a lot of legal texts in respect of criminal law. He's written, I suppose, over a dozen now, correct?
Yes, they are more than 10 now.
They are more than 10. All right. Thank you very much once again. So this has been The Law. It's your legal light. It is your help law. We hope we were able to give you some education. Have a good afternoon.
Now, tonight on our front, we delve into the prospects of the newly launched Alliance for Revolutionary Change in the 2024 elections. This group promises a fresh style of leadership characterized by vision, competence, accountability, and also compassion. The Alliance aims to implement some transformative policies across all sectors, and I'm sure you know this started with the movement of change, Alan Chamanti's movement of change. So they are adopting the GTP, that's the Great Transformational Change of the movement of change, with a particular focus on making growth and fostering national unity. But will they succeed where other independent candidates have failed? We certainly will be exploring that question and be getting deeper into whether or not this is the biggest gathering of the most serious attempt by third part of Ghana. Will the Alliance for Change be the change Ghana has needed all this while? After this break, we shall be exploring with the leadership of the change. Now, you're welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Dalka. Joining me now is a man many know with a full gospel ministry, back today, made an unusual appearance on the platform of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, Reverend Dr. Essen Mensah. Reverend, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you very much, Raymond.
So, Reverend, let me be clear on this. I know that most of you, men of God, are shied away from active involvement in politics, but you mounted a platform ostensibly representing a group that is now part of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. Walk me through how that happened.
Yeah, Raymond, the point is about 6 years, for 6 years now, I have been trumpeting and preaching on the need for an alternative force, a third force that will be an alternative to the NPP-NDC duopoly, which hasn't really brought any significant change in our lives, and we have never made any significant progress as a nation. And so, and individual groups that are also exhausted about what seems to be going on contacted me and asked if perhaps I could rally people around. And that led to the founding of the Ghana First Coalition, which I happen to be the founder of the Ghana First Coalition, for which the National Interest Movement is a member under the leadership of Dr. Abu Sakara and all other members that constituted the Ghana First platform.
So there existed a group, forgive me, I need to understand this. There existed a group already, coalition.
Coalition, right.
So what was it really about, this Ghana First Coalition?
The Ghana First Coalition is about preparing and mobilizing people to become a third force as an alternative to the NPP-NDC duopoly. Birthed in 2020, just before the 2020 elections. And we have been working behind the scenes to ensure that we could put together a mass movement that will begin to bring the necessary change we desire. So, to do with a movement. It's not a partisan politics. It's a movement for change as a third force. And that is exactly what today is a great joy to see the third force being given as a result of clarion call for the past 6 years. Other patriotic Ghanaians have also joined the call for an alternative movement. And I believe today we are seeing, perhaps, a credible alternative to the duopoly.
Now, I know that many of you are coming from different backgrounds. Some are complete masses or socialists in nature. Some are from the center right, and they are pursued policies or believed in ideological leanings that are completely center right. I am not so sure where your ideological leaning is, but how is this amalgamation of different groups and different people with different thinking possible? Is this likely to last any proper system or fire that will be thrown at you in a partisan political system we find ourselves in?
Projects that has been put in place
to
ensure that it throws its weight to the Alan Tremantin as the independent presidential candidate, because the messages are just about reform. Number one, a government of inclusivity, an inclusive government, a government of number two, of continuity, a government that will be based on meritocracy and not, popularism, vision, for which we don't have. a government that will be driven also by national values. If I should ask you, you don't know, before going to school and finish universities and what have you, but there are no common national values that seem to be driving our nation. Okay? So a government that will bring constitutional reform. And now all these amalgamation of these groups are fighting for these major agenda or major items or issues that together we believe we can bring the change that Ghanaians desire to see.
It's all interesting. The question I wanted to know is whether or not the differences will not break up this important gathering, whether or not you've agreed to mend differences or they are uniting factors. And I heard Mr. Chairman say that the things that unite you are perhaps greater than the things that divide you. But this is still politics. Will this alliance really last throughout this election hearing period?
Indeed, vision is a common denominator that brings people together to fight a common cause, regardless of your individual differences. So if our vision is to become an alternative, credible movement, and that will be the thing that will draw everybody together. Indeed, the other groups also maintain their own identity. They have their own individual drive of what they want to do, and so nobody controls them. The umbrella organization of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change allows various groups to maintain their identity and what they want to do. And therefore, they will still pursue their individual activities and vision. But when it comes to the national cause of the country, we will all marshal forces together for one common cause to replace. The concept is to replace the duopoly. We have had, and there must be a change. And that is what this alliance is going to stand for. And everybody will come under this vision, a change, a replacement of the duopoly. So I strongly believe that though individuals may have their own identity or agenda, that will not undermine the overall agenda of the movement, which is the things that I've outlined. Replacement to replace the NPP NDC.
Okay, now I get your point. I get the uniting factor there. You have mentioned Dr. Abu Sakara Foster. You have also mentioned Mr. Chairman who leads the movement for change, because I know that it's the national interest movement that Dr. Abu Sakara Foster was actually connected with. But I saw a lot more people there. I saw the likes of Odike, others from the PNC and the CPP. Are these political parties, that's a PNC and CPP also? I think PNC is actually what I saw. Yes. Are they officially on board, or it is representatives or individuals within the various groups that are now on board?
Odike and his movement is on board. The PNC gentleman, he's as a vice chairman, he is there as an individual, but with the view of mobilizing the people in his party to be part of it. And also, being the Reverend Minister, and as a statesman, I will constantly play my role of influencing and facilitating individuals and groups that wants to possibly stand for elections to come together under one major umbrella for one common purpose to achieve that goal of replacement of number of people. They are all coming under one umbrella, and let's find and become the third force we are dealing with. So yes, we will constantly talk to people. I will play my role as a statesman, and I believe that individuals that probably want to go solo, we can manage and then influence them to come together. Because the greater the people come together, the greater it is. And there can be the change that we desire to have pretty much.
So far, how many groups have now come together? Because there appears to be a long list that you're mentioning now, and the individuals are also. How many groups are now in the Alliance for Revolutionary Change?
I think for now we have about 10 to 12 member groups. And I don't have the document that I can outline their names, and I can mention their names, but about 10 to 12. And there are others who are waiting to sign in. Our job is to cast the net wider and bring everybody on board, including a number of the media houses, other professional groups. So that is where we find ourselves. This is just not a cast in stone, membership. the alliance is making the necessary effort to expand members, bring members, and for one common agenda to pursue the dream of the replacement.
Now, I need to ask you this because as a reverend minister, some will say it is very dangerous to step into the foray where there is heavy partisanship and a contest, which is where really this will be, because the alliance will contest elections. Are you not worried about that?
I'm concerned about Ghana.
Okay.
I'm concerned about my children. I'm concerned about my grandchildren. I'm concerned about the next generation. What are we going to bequeath to them? You know, the founding fathers bequeathed to us a Ghana that we were proud of. In our time now, we are not proud about the Fourth Republic and the kind of Ghana we see. And therefore, can we all make a little bit of sacrifice to begin to fight for the Ghana we all desire to have? At least before we check out of this life, we should be able to do something meaningful. If we can improve the life of our country, you know, like to become a developed nation, can take up the baton, and at least we all want to be as a developed nation. So someone should be part of this clarion call. Martin Luther played a role in ensuring that civil rights. Bishop Desmond Tutu played those kind of roles. Religious leaders can be non-partisan in terms of their character and personality. But as statesmen, they can speak for their nation and they can mobilize people to bring the change that their country desires to have. Now I am playing that role, not as a partisan person, but as a statesman who thinks about Ghana, dreams about Ghana, and wants the betterment of the country and the future of our country.
Now, there is a question already out there, which I'm sure by now you should be able to answer. Why revolutionary change? The last time we heard of revolution, it was Rawlings's unconstitutional government time. Why revolutionary change?
Nothing can be achieved in this life if there is not a change of mind and a change of attitude and a change of heart. And where we have gotten to, we need that revolution, a mental revolution, a transformed system, things that can change our thinking, our mindset, our attitude. And revolution means a complete overhaul of the system. So that is the approach. I'm aware that, you know, at a point people were not too, you know, probably comfortable with the word, because the older generation weren't too pleasant and excited about the word revolution. But for the younger generation, it was appealing to them. But we have to give it a give and take approach. So my revolution is to bring attitudinal change, mental change, so that we can achieve what we desire to achieve. And that is what perhaps I can explain to you.
Now, so it's been launched today. We know your plans of massing up numbers across the country. The big question is, can you succeed where others have failed? There has been so many attempts to have independent candidates come on board. Can you as a group succeed where others have failed?
Well, I think it will depend upon the message and vision that will rally everybody together. Indeed, if the average Ghanaian feels discouraged, disappointed, discontented, despaired, and have lost hope in this generation we find ourselves, then nothing prevents the average Ghanaian people from not voting for NDC. Vote for yourself by joining a movement that will want to bring the change we all desire to have. So I believe that with that commitment and with that vision and mindset, there can be progress. The group can make an impact. The group can make an impact. It's a matter of beginning it and starting the journey. We are told the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So this movement has been born. We trust that together it will marshal the forces and we can have the change we all desire. It's possible in other nations to provide leadership for our country.
Now, I need to ask you this question too, because it's actually important. Realistically, is it the quest to influence the elections or be a factor in the election, or to put up a candidate who will win the election?
Candidate that will win the election. And that is what we have. In the unlikely event that the ARC will not win the elections, they can become the kingmakers, and then to decide that the group that will, in the various things we have outlined, and members will be given the opportunity to miss the dream that the candidate will have the edge to win the elections. But in the unlikely event, and of course, what the ARC depends upon or wants to do is to make sure which group will accept the issues that we have on the table to bring constitutional reform, a transformed Ghana, a governance of continuity, and a government of inclusiveness. And of course, we can pursue that and work with that group of parties.
Now, third-party presidential candidates sometimes played crucial roles as kingmakers in 2 of the presidential elections since 1992. And I'm talking here about 2000 election and the 2008. In fact, the data suggests that third parties need to gain a minimum of combined vote share of 3 to 7% to have a chance of influencing the elections and defeating the incumbents. And since 2000, third parties obtained a combined vote of something below 3% or more. We are talking here about 3 presidential elections, 2000, 2004, and 2008. 2 of these elections led to a runoff and a defeat of the incumbent. The understanding, at least Professor Pesa White puts to this conversation, is that there is still about 27% of our voter population which is completely calling themselves floating voters, which may swing in either direction. Are these the...
We are told there's about just 20-30% of these voters, undecided voters. It will be the key people that, number one, the alliance will target. And then, of course, if there are others who have already made up their minds, but they are frustrated and they will want to join, that would be great. But these swing voters, the undecided voters, would be the key people that the alliance will focus on, including those that are dissatisfied about the state of affairs, those that are, disappointed about the issues of affairs, those that are discontented about the nature of our governance, those and young women who have no hope in our country. They are the people the alliance is calling them on board. But let's come together, let's transform Ghana for the sake of our founding fathers, for the sake of our founding fathers. Let's bequeath something meaningful to the next generation.
Now, I think this is the key message you are delivering, but the electioneering process mostly boils down to policies. It boils down to many of the things I'm talking about. First, I think you mentioned something in connection with a united Ghana and also a government that is really for the people. What are the key policies? Do you have promises on the table? Do you have set out clearly the kind of messaging you are sending to the people of this country?
I think the message of Alan Trematin is the Great Transformation Plan, which is going to be outlined, which has been outlined as to the things that has to be done under that's the key message, right? Driving the message. And I don't have all the details with me, but it covers some of the key things that I have shared with you about the government of national unity, all-inclusive governance. It's not about NDC and NPP, whether trade women, trade union, professionals, faith-based leaders, religious leaders, academia, all those who matter, who can be picked and to contribute to national development. This is what the alliance would work with and encourage that great participation. The government of continuity, projects that have been left from the days of Rawlings up to where we find ourselves. It's all a matter of let's go back and build those projects, all right? Building and strengthening our industries so that we will move from export-driven, to import-driven to an economy that will export. So basically, I don't have the details of all the Great Transformation Plan, but these are the things that actually covers that.
Are we expecting you to don the shirt of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change and go from house to house campaigning on the grounds anytime soon, Reverend?
I'm not too certain about whether I'm ready for it. Alliance for Revolutionary Change, which is the umbrella body, Movement for Change, and NIM, the National Interest Movement, is also a movement under the ARC. Ghana First Coalition is a movement under the AFRC. So everyone will still have their identity, but they will project the message of the Great Transformation Plan and the support for Alan. So that is what we will do.
I get your point. I wanted to know whether you will be going around campaigning too. That's all, Reverend. Yes, that's the question.
I am not a partisan person.
Yeah.
Based upon my calling and my profession. My profession would not allow me to get into political partisan activity. But as a statesman, I will play my role as a statesman, encouraging everybody to look for the alternative governance system that we are yearning for.
Your church members certainly will have MPP, NDC, and others represented. How did they feel about this bold move of yours?
Well, they know over the years I've been preaching and talking about an alternative movement. And so, again, it's not a political activity.
Okay.
The Alliance for Revolutionary Change is not a political party, but it is a movement of a third force which we have all been calling for and been praying for. And that is what I have preached over the past 6-7 years. And if today people want to come together under that umbrella, I think it's an answer to prayer. And so we will explain to our people that it has nothing to do with political party activities.
Reverend, I am most grateful to you for your time this evening, and I wish you the very best. Reverend Dr. S.N. Mensah is more recently left the role as the president of the Full Gospel Ministry, but he is with a group that's already joined the biggest clarion so far seen in the Republic of Ghana of third parties and independent people who want to remove or replace the duopoly of the NPP and the NDC. Do you think they will succeed? After this break, we shall be having some analysis with the political scientists about the chances and the prospects of this Alliance for Revolutionary Change. You're welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Darko. I just got by was a conversation with the former president of the Full Gospel International Ministry, Reverend Dr. S.N. Mensah. The crux of the conversation is earlier today, the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, a grouping spearheaded by Alan John Kojo Tremanten, who until recently was a leading member contestant to now form the Movement for Change. Now, the Movement of Change actually has attracted, we are told now, about 12 more institutions and other groups, which was launched today as the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. The main agenda is to annex political power, removing or replacing the NPP and the NDC duopoly. But will they succeed where many have failed? I'm being joined by a political scientist, Dr. Kwame Asa-Asante. Doc, you're welcome.
Good morning and good evening to your viewers.
I understand that a leading member of the Alliance also joins us via phone. Dr. Foster.
Dr. Sakara.
Yes, Dr. Sakara, let me start from you because there's a question I'm asking, and I've just gone through a bit of the data when it comes to political parties in the Republic of Ghana. Now, third-party presidential candidates, we know that played crucial roles, especially in the year 2000 and 2008 elections. Indeed, the data suggests that for third parties to gain a minimum of votes that's supposed to make an influence, it should be between 3% and 7%. We know what it takes to win the election, so that's not in dispute at all. But since 2000, third parties obtained a combined vote share of 3% or more in the elections 2000, 2004, and 2008. And two of these led to the runoff and the defeat of the incumbent. Now, one should be clear in their minds on what is the agenda of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. Are you targeting an absolute win in this election, or it is starting small, making sure that at least you influence who gets to the Flagstaff House next?
Well, I think the first point is that your comparison with previous alliances may not be absolutely on point, because this is a deliberate alliance. Previous alliances have come about after the second round when people have not won. It's an alliance of convenience. This is an alliance of conviction where we have a common cause that has brought us together well before the election, and we are now pursuing or prosecuting that agenda. So obviously, we're going to do better because we have worked deliberately towards it. That's one thing. The second point is that
So it appears I'm having some difficulty on the line to Dr. Sakara. No, okay, you're on. I can hear you now. Dr. Sakara, you're making the point about the second point.
I think the second point is that the starting point is also different. Already you can see from some surveys that the presidential candidate on his own is attracting maybe about 7% of the vote. And that is more than all the parties that are not NDC or MVP have ever attracted in an election. So if that is the starting point for the campaign on his own before the alliance, obviously he's going to gain more support there. And furthermore, you have about almost 40% undecided at this time. If they're undecided, they're not really ready to commit to the duopoly. That's why they're undecided. So again, if anybody's said the objective will be to win, but if it so happens that there's a second round, then we also position ourselves accordingly to get the results that we want out of it.
If I may, please give me a second. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, the clarity here is that this is a union of conviction, not of convenience, which distinguishes this particular alliance for what has been the previous practice in times past. This is also one element that's likely to make it succeed. Do you, from your distinguished political science experience, agree?
To Dr. Sakara's view, but I disagree, because we know that in this country, smaller parties always struggle to win political power. We have never seen, to put it bluntly, we haven't seen any of the smaller parties winning power, at least in the Fourth Republic, no. So if you look at even the previous elections, all that we have seen, even all the smaller parties, the average have not gone up to even 5%. So to talk of having more than 50% is going to be a miracle. But nobody goes into election and then will tell you that, yes, I'm there to lose election. They know that as for winning the presidential election, they are far from that. But what they can do, and that is a possibility, that when they are able to work well and they are able to organize themselves, having resources, they have strategy that resonates with people, and they have messages that deal with the problems of this country. If all things being equal, then they are likely to push the election into a second round. If you look at the giants who are leading the parties, for instance, Mr. Chirmatin, he has a number of following, and so is Dr. Sakara and the rest of them. At least these two are giants. They'll be able to pull some people along. It is a fact. And if that works well or in tandem with the effort of other political parties, then the best they can have is to push the second election to a second round, where they become very influential actors within the process.
Doc, I did hear you say, Dr. Sakara, I did hear Mr. Chamati say clearly that you are creating a new political culture, ushering in a new type of leadership, visionary, competent, accountable. Also mentioned implementing transformational policies in all sectors, making private sector the real engine of growth of the economy, and building a united Ghana. Are these the pillars of your campaign? What is the unique selling proposition of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, which will make you excel where others have failed? Dr. Sakara, can you hear me? Yes, let me come to you because I was asking the same question to you, Dr. Kwame Asante. The thinking is that political parties and alliances of this sort come with a very special feel. He's basically saying this is a very new terrain and we are going to do something different. I did mention the things that they are promising to do in the Republic of Ghana. Are these revolutionary enough to make the masses of this country move away from the NPP and the NDC? And I'm talking here about the messaging.
Yeah, messaging, you and I know, is critical in every election. And this election is not going to be, expect from the political actors messages that resonate with people, messages whose foundation have something to do with the problems of the society, and messages that give hope and address the problems that we have in this country head on. Yes, they need to be able to get these basics right if they really want to survive in the election. Obviously, they are not going to come out with weak messages. Already we've seen some of the ideas they are throwing out and all that. But the issue is that, well, these things influence people to the extent that it would take them away from their dominant political tradition. That, yes, they are likely to have some people, but to take the bulk of the people from the party, I'm afraid that will not happen. The reason being that if you look at this country, more often than not, you realize that political party traditions have been so strong and dominant in the efforts of or within the political landscape, let me put it that way. So an independent actor or person who is want to contest these established traditions, then you need to come in with extra, ideas, extra solutions, and the rest of them. Yes, it is true that the giants, these two that I know them very well, Alan Chamathing, Dr. Sakara, they are men of ideas and all that. But as to whether they will survive the strength of these entrenched political traditions that have ruled this country for a number of years, that is a daunting task for them.
Now, there's a question on the minds of many people in Ghana. You know that Dr. Sakara is really from the CPP stock, so one will think that he's center-left. Mr. automatically that he's center-right. Now, I've seen a lot of others being thrown in there. More recently, I heard the pro-Marxist grouping in the Republic of Ghana, the fighters group, yes, the economic fighters group, Ernesto Yeboah's group, equally throwing its weight behind this. Will this amalgamation of different ideological leanings work? Will they survive till at least the election of this time?
Ideology is a problem in this country. If you look at, apart from, say, the CPP and then the NDC, who have come out creative to governance in this country, the NPP have not been able to articulate clearly what their ideology is, with the exception of recent times that I know that they have made efforts to let it out of what their main ideology is, and if that is anything to go by standard, how, in the first place, do you think people have, learn about this ideology? They know it so well that they have internalized it within their system to be able to follow the party all along. Those who are floating voters the people I'm referring to, you realize that they don't know much of the party in terms of what their ideologies and all that, but they follow them based on the economic needs that they have, and for which reason they believe that a party should be able to handle that for them. That is what pushed them. They also believe that there are certain lingering challenges within the country that require serious solutions to deal with, i.e. we are talking about what corruption and a fight against it. These are things that people are looking forward to. And of course, due to our, developing nature, we expect that people will see developmental projects littered in the nook and cranny of this country. These are the things that quickly get voters attracted to and then push them into voting one direction or another. If you want to straight the conversation, then you are talking about records, contest of what ideas and referendum of your work. What type of work can they show as entity, a new entity that is there for the world to do, to see? These are things voters will want to relate to and then make informed choices based on this. Do they have anything that they can show that they have? The established political parties, the dominant one, of course, NDC, MPP, have over the years, at least in this Fourth Republic, demonstrated that they have something that they can show. What can they, compare with them in order to convince people to vote for them? That is going to be $1 million question for them.
That is also the question I want to ask you, Dr. Sakara. The question about messaging. Which messaging are you likely to push out there that's going to drive you the votes, make people change their mind from the MPP and the NDC?
Okay. I think, first of all, the premise of the analysis has to be changed. We are proceeding on a linear path. This is what it has been. It will never change, and therefore we expect this result. If that were the case, duopolies all around the world would have never changed parties. And yet, if you look at the most established duopolies, the parties that they began with are not the parties there now. So at some stage, something happened to change. What has happened usually, and if you look at the wages law, is that when you have a democracy, it descends into two democracies, which become stagnant over time. And then eventually there is a friction or fracture in one of them, and then a reconstitution. You may end up with two parties again, but not the same two parties. So I think political scientists have to look at it beyond just NDC, MPP. NDC, MPP will not be there forever and ever. Someday, one day, it will change. Not necessarily because of us, but because that is the normal trend of things. If you go by that issue, then you ask yourself, what is it that causes this change? What is the tipping point that brings about this change? Then you begin to know. Whereas previously, you could get away with making all kinds of promises which you will never deliver on. People have seen this over and over again, and you're at the point now where there's a great deal of frustration. The living conditions in the country are very hard. Everything is very expensive. Ordinary people are having to fork out more than 60-70% of their income on food, little left over for rent, and it just keeps going. You cannot assume that Ghanaians are oblivious to all of these things and will just go out and vote for NDC, MPP. It is that kind of assumption that results in the surprise that changes a duopoly. So we are saying that the reference point for what has happened before in Ghana is not the same, and it has moved on. The Ghanaians are still the same people, but the reference point for the election is not the same. And there's a great deal of dissatisfaction with the duopoly as we know it. There's a lack of responsiveness, even in this election, in this administration. How many times did people ask for the Minister of Finance to resign? Nothing happened. How many times did people ask for the price of government to be cut down? Nothing happened. How many times have people complained about the Galamsey? Nothing happened. So are you telling me that Ghanaians are so unconcerned that they will continue to live in a duopoly that is totally unresponsive to their needs? I don't think so. I think that Ghanaians are now got to a stage where they are going to make some choices. And all they need is an alternative. And this is what the Alliance for Revolutionary Change is offering them, an alternative. Yes, we don't have the operational resources to the extent that the two established parties have, but there is different strategies to mobilize support at the grassroots level, and we have taken the less expensive, less costly strategy to mobilize resources at the grassroots level. If we can mobilize enough of those resources to do that, I think that there can be a big surprise in this election. Now, whether or not it's an outright win or it is a runoff, I don't know. But I suspect if we can mobilize enough, any of those can happen. Secondly, I think that the discussion about messaging, the messaging is really a message that is effective is what responds to the needs of the people now. And all the issues that we are talking about are the things people are really feeling. The hardships they're going through, the lack of opportunity they have, and giving them hope that there can be an alternative. Now, if your message assumes that you need to respond to them and how they feel, but you can just tell them anything and promise them anything and get away with it, then you will live with the consequences of that and see if they will take it a second time. So I think that we are underestimating Ghanaians by a long shot if we think that what has gone on before can simply carry on undisturbed because Ghanaians are sleeping and they are not responsive to what has been happening in the system.
I am grateful to you, Dr. Sakara, and also to you, Professor Kwame Asa-Asante from the University of Ghana, Political Science Department. Gentlemen, many thanks to you for joining us on Upfront tonight, and also for you out there who joined us right from the beginning of this conversation. It started Reverend S.N. Mensah. I am also grateful to you for your time with us this evening.
September 2023, the management of the VRA opened the spillways of the Akosombo Dam. Millions of gallons of water rushed out, destroying everything on its path. Then the blame game began.
From VRA all the way to the very top, they owe us explanations.
The forecast gave the indication that we are not supposed to expect too much water into the reservoir. But in August, the situation changed.
Our forecast did not change.
After the floods, 36,000 people remain displaced, reeling under the heavy weight of neglect.
Some of the ladies, they are in their menses, and how they will bath, change themselves, nothing. They can't do anything, so maybe they'll be in one part. As I'm talking to you now, me myself, I'm also a victim.
After the floods, JoyNews returns to speak to the affected people, to understand their pain, and to understand why an engineering decision should cause such havoc.
I'm very much annoyed with VRA, and we are not hearing anything from them.
They have to come to our aid and support us and give us compensation.
After the floods, a JoyNews hotline documentary coming soon.
There are reporters who basically don't get asking for money. And if I was a politician and I was pushing a propaganda, I would definitely use those people and give them money to push the propaganda. And it's happening particularly between now and 2024. It's all about selling propaganda. So is that contributory to press freedom? I don't think so. They'll be selling somebody's idea. A real press freedom is where people have the capacity to report the news that they want to report, that they think they should report, that they believe that the country needs. And that without limitation to any kind of fear from political repercussions. The way they're controlling the press today is not from criminal libel laws, but rather from the economy. If I give you money, I can control you. I don't have to make a law to control you. I can use money to buy your time, to buy your freedom, to buy your ability to express yourself.
In an estate. It's true there I saw a tiler. I look at how he was tiling and I thought I can do it. So I approached him, but he told me straight that tiling is not meant for female, so I shouldn't even venture. I met an NGO. They were training youth in construction. There, I wanted to choose tiling, but because of what the guy told me, I chose interior decoration, thinking that is a field for female. So along the line, I saw the
mentor the female students to be able to learn more in the tiling. So from the video I watched, I realized Doris is the right person. We actually got to know she was the ambassador for Artisans Association of Ghana. He has done lots of projects in West Hill and other places. So from there I realized Doris is a very hard-working person. He has the passion to see her fellow female having the skills to be able to work, to be able to earn enough for themselves. So we're very, very happy to have Doris to be the main person to train the female.
A woman in the technical field is not an easy job. And when I see her do what she does, and I feel inspired to the extent that I know that I can also do it because she has been able to do it. So if I keep pushing, I can also do better.
I can boldly say that I've empowered a lot of female and then male. I'm so happy and very proud of myself and my girls as well. They are also happy to be around me, which had made them to even move from their comfort home just to come and be with me. So we all stay in the same home as a family. I'm very happy. So with this, I want to tell all female out there that construction is not meant for only male. If you want to do it and you are determined, you will get there.
Without tiling, there is no future for me. Because my auntie is in the male-dominated sector, it really inspires me in all aspects of my life. Whether it being academic, financially, anyway. What men can do, women can do better. My auntie is doing that. She's an inspiration to me. She's a star, and I look up to her because she's a role model to me.
How come say we all day matter inside, we all they suffer? Something they cause me, they cause you, they cause your son and daughter. Where we all all we come together, then try to sort each other. Then you go turn around and sell out just because of dollar. Man, just they think how fast he go fetch up something today. Forget about him, people, make them find them our own way. Forgetting, say the same people put on for where he day. He cast too high to see suffering below, he's too far away. Them get eyes, but them know they see. Them get heart, but them know they feel. Some too they get mind, but them know they think. That be why we all day inside a boat where we they sink. I say them get eyes, but them know they see. Them get heart, but them know they feel. Some too they get mind, but them know they think. That be why we all day inside a boat where we they sink. Myopia, they know they see nothing. Ice cold heart, they know they feel nothing. Bad minds, all they know they think about you. That be why we all day inside the boats where we they sink. I say, myopia, they know they see nothing. Ice cold heart, they know they feel nothing. Bad minds, all they know they think about you. That be why we all day inside the boat where we they sink. I say them get eyes, but them know they see. Them get heart, but them know they feel. Some too they get mind, but them know they think. That be why we all day inside a boat where we they sink. I say them get eyes, but them know they see. Them get heart, but them know they feel. Some too they get mind, but them know they think. That be why we all day inside a boat where we they sink.
News is important. It's the only way you get to know the things that happen around you, what affects you today and the future. At JoyNews, we have reporters scattered around the country who tell us about the communities they live in, the people and their stories. The key part of our job here at JoyNews is to make clearer the muffled voices in every part of society. We shine light on the issues. My name is Aisha Ibrahim, and this is JoyNews. Independent, credible, and fearless.
Cocoa is a major source of foreign exchange for the Republic of Ghana. However, the increasing demand for this cash crop over the years has resulted in the use of more deforested land to feed the supply chain. This situation has prompted the European Union to pass its traceability policy. According to this new regulation, any cocoa product entering the European market should not be sourced from recently deforested land or contribute what it terms a transition period and the need to enforce environmental sustainability.
The discussions, they were ongoing for quite some time because we adopted legislation 2 years ago, and 2 years were given for a transition period. So now we're aiming to have the legislation running since the beginning of the next year.
The EU Commission is this week sending a high-level delegation led by its Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries to Ghana, which is one of the world's largest producers of cocoa.
Because this legislation is applicable to all. It's not aiming at any equal to EU member states, the same as the countries outside the EU. What it tackles is the commodities that do have the biggest impact as regards the deforestation around the globe. That our consumption pattern is one of the reasons that drives deforestation. So therefore this step by the EU is taking responsibility for our consumption pattern and ensuring that the supply chains through which certain commodities reach the EU, that they are free of deforestation.
Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire are the two world largest producers of cocoa. There is in fact a framework that guides our trade, the Ghana Cocoa Initiative. I was speaking to the CEO a couple of weeks back, and he appears to identify two major factors for which we're seeing this high level of stuff. The issue about, other markets or third states paying higher prices to these cocoa farmers. Don't you feel that if we apply the standards, these countries might take advantage of the situation and then we'll see smuggling into other markets other than the EU?
On contrary, I think, sustainability pays off. And consumers, they are aware very well that they want to, even if that certain product will go to different market first, and then it would try to enter EU, it would still need to be traced back to its origin. Because the information that is needed to provide is very simple. It's the geolocation. And for us, the most important is the...
In the wake of the implementation of this new policy, the EU has come under intense criticism for placing the livelihood of smallholder farmers in jeopardy. But the multilateral body says the reverse is the case, as it is urging the regulator, Cocoa Board, to endeavour to meet this new standard. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for talking to Joy News. You're in Accra, so Akwaba is our way of welcome. But how is Accra treating you so far?
Well, so far it's been great. I had a busy day since the arrival, having a number of meetings with responsible ministers, with the Cocoa Board. And now, thank you very much for having me, for
engaging some of our officials. But what's prompting this visit, high-level visit from the European Union?
First of all, Ghana has been an excellent partner for the EU, a very important partner in Africa, and therefore this visit is another opportunity to strengthen our ties. We're focusing a lot on deforestation regulation, which again, Ghana being one of the top producer of the cacao and importer to EU, is going to be impacted. So for us, it's extremely important to ensure a smooth transition and operational implementation of the legislation. So therefore, this exchange is a very frank dialogue, open one, showing EU's willingness to work together with Ghana to ensure that we have a smooth transition. Secondly, we also, of course, focused on sustainability, on the matters of climate change, a lot as well with the Minister of Fisheries on the fisheries matters and the protection of our oceans.
So which means that, largely speaking, your visit is based on issues relating to environmental sustainability. And, you've been interacting with some of the state officials. What's on the priority list for you, especially working, from the perspective of the European Union?
So at the end of the day, we have EU deforestation regulation, which is going to be implemented. So therefore, the top priority is to ensure that Ghana producers are ready with the legislation, so that there is no hiccups in our trade. EU is one of the biggest importers of cacao produced in Ghana, and therefore it's important to continue this relationship, but also ensure that it brings a broader benefits to society, to people here in Ghana. First of all, making sure that it's a sustainable trade that does not drive the losses of forest and biodiversity across country.
I see. And that brings to mind the issue about, for instance, the traceability policy, which is obviously one of the frameworks you're referring to. The feeling is that, you know, countries such as Ghana and other cocoa producers in the West Africa sub-region might be at the receiving end of, you know, selectivity in terms of the implementation of the policy, and that we might be shut out entirely from the European Union market. Is that the objective of this policy, playing to our disadvantage as your long-term partner?
No possibility that Ghana would be cut from the supply chain, because already you have done a significant work as regards the sustainability, as regards the traceability. We will continue working on exact guidelines in our bilateral work between the technical people, and we will ensure that both sides are ready, because this legislation is applicable to all. It's not aiming at any country or any region in the world. It's applicable to EU member states, the same as the countries outside the EU. What it tackles is the commodities that do have the biggest impact as regards the deforestation around the globe. But as I've said, you know, a lot of work has been done. This is not a legislation that EU suddenly, you know, took out of the hat for a surprise of many. Right. We talked about, you know, halting deforestation in SDGs. The latest Glasgow pledge, where the leaders around the world pledged to halt deforestation by 2030. And in order to do so, we of course have to have tools that can deliver. And for EU, for myself personally, it is extremely difficult to speak at the COPs, to speak at the global meetings of the minister against the deforestation, while I know that our consumption pattern is one of the reasons that drives deforestation. So therefore, this step by the EU is taking responsibility for our consumption pattern and ensuring that the supply chains through which certain commodities reach the EU, that they are free of deforestation.
Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire are the two world largest producers of cocoa. There is in fact a framework that guides our trade, the Ghana Cocoa Initiative. I was speaking to the CEO a couple of weeks back, and he appears to identify two major factors for which we've you know, disruptions within the supply chain. First off, the issue about, you know, other markets or third states paying higher prices to these cocoa farmers, you know, the farm gate prices, which are relatively attractive in states that do not implement this traceability process, and the possibility of that shifting, you know, the whole framework of traceability away into places where these farmers may be making more money. Don't you feel that if we apply the standards, these countries might take advantage of the situation, and then we'll see smuggling into other markets other than the EU?
On contrary, I think, you know, sustainability pays off, and consumers, they are aware very well that they want to have a product that comes from the areas that are not associated with child labor abuses, that are not associated with the deforestation. So therefore, those certified goods, they of course are much more expensive in the market, but they also don't have a negative impact, especially on producers, largest chocolate producers or other products. Well, you know, even if that certain product will go to different market first, and then it would try to enter EU, it would still need to be traced back to its origin, because the information that is needed to provide is very simple. It's the geolocation data of the farmland. So this is something that doesn't move. And for us, the most important is the location of the farmland and the commodity that is being grown there. So therefore, even so, at the beginning, this is an exercise to do, and we understand very well, and that's why we are supporting also with the budget support. For example, for Ghana, there is 8 million allocated into different programs to ensure a smooth transition. But after, when it's done, this information will remain in the system for many, many years. So the farmers, even if the new farmer moves into certain land, he won't need to update it as long as he grows the same commodity or any other commodity that falls under the scope, because the land plot is the same.
And speaking about the average farmer, how does the average farmer become a winner in this deal?
First of all, I think, and for example, with the structure of agriculture that you have here in Ghana, where you have the Cocoa Board, they are an umbrella organization who has the ownership